Multiple intelligence community assessments released in the months leading up to the November 2016 election concluded that Russia had neither the intent nor capability to impact the outcome of the U.S. election. On December 5th.
We've been listening there to the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, continuing on what has now been a multi-day effort, not only with public statements like this, but release of documents, to attempt to back up the quite extreme allegation that President Obama is guilty of treason and that he worked in some sort of conspiracy with Hillary Clinton, etc., in the assessment by the intelligence community at the time that Russia interfered in the 2016 election.
That's right. You just saw CNN, a supposed news organization, cutting away from Tulsi Gabbard's press briefing, where she's basically laying out the information that, hey, Barack Obama knew all of the Russia hoax stuff was, in fact, a hoax. But he went ahead and leaked the information anyway. Okay, but CNN doesn't want that to get out, and instead it's going to offer commentary as to, of course, why they don't agree with her assessment. But with all of that set aside for a second, let's go ahead and check out Tulsi Gabbard and Karoline Leavitt totally obliterate Kaitlan Collins' line of questioning. But before we get to these clips, don't forget to like and comment on this video so we can break the algorithms. Here we go.
Just on this, Director Gabbard, you referenced the past intelligence reports and assessments on this, including that 2017 one that was signed off, as Ed noted, by every Republican on the Senate Intelligence Community, including the acting chair of the time, now Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who said in a statement that they did not find any evidence of Russian collusion, but they did find, however, is very troubling, and they found irrefutable evidence of Russian meddling. One, are you saying that he's wrong in that statement that he made then? And secondly, what would you say to people who believe that you're only releasing these documents now to improve your standing with the president after he said that your intelligence assessments were wrong?
Well, first, I want to correct something that you stated, which was citing the Senate Intelligence Committee's report as being one and the same. I think you said the intelligence community. The Senate Intelligence Committee has a very different function than the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. The evidence and the intelligence that has been declassified and released is irrefutable. I'm going to let Karoline speak to Secretary Rubio.
I'll speak to both questions. First, on Secretary Rubio, he put out a statement in 2020 following that Senate Intelligence Committee report, and he said what they found is troubling. We found irrefutable evidence of Russian meddling, which the Director of National Intelligence just confirmed for all of you, that Russia was trying to sow distrust and chaos. But what's the outrage in this that Secretary Rubio did not say at the time, the Democrats were saying at the time, is the fact that the intelligence community was concocting this narrative that the president colluded with the Russians, that the president's son was holding secret meetings with the Russians, all of these lies that were never true. And he also said at that time, we discovered deeply troubling actions taken by the FBI under Comey, particularly their acceptance and willingness to rely on the Steele dossier without verifying its methodology or sourcing. The Steele dossier that many outlets in this room ran as the gospel truth, and it was cooked up and paid for by the Clinton campaign. As for your second question, Kaitlan, I think who is saying that she would release this to try to boost her standing with the president? Who has said that?
Well, the president has publicly undermined her when it came to Iran. He said she was wrong. He told me that she didn't know what she was talking about. That was on Air Force One on camera.
The only people who are suggesting that the Director of National Intelligence would release evidence to try to boost her standing with the president are the people in this room who constantly try to sow distrust and chaos amongst the president's cabinet, and it is not working. I will just answer your question directly. I am with the President of the United States every day. He has the utmost confidence in Director Gabbard. He always has. He continues to, and that is true of his entire cabinet, who is all working as one team to deliver on the promises this president made.
So Tulsi Gabbard releases all of these files that point to Barack Obama apparently being the one who said, go ahead and release this fake Russia hoax nonsense. But rather than try to prove or disprove this information is true, Kaitlan Collins is basically going to say, Tulsi Gabbard, aren't you really just releasing this to try to gain favor with Donald Trump? Okay, but of course, that's what the Democrats are always doing. They're always trying to pivot. They're always trying to change the narrative, right? When all this stuff came out, initially it was, the Republicans are actually disagreeing with the Trump-Russia Russia collusion now? Didn't they do an investigation of their own that disproved it, right? And of course, what we all understand is that every foreign nation is going to try to interfere in some form in every other nation's elections because they want to have a result that's going to reflect them the best. But the question is, how much can they actually influence that vote? Can they hack systems? Can they change ballots? Can they cause massive fraud? And the answer to all of that, at least in 2016, is no. But now that all of these documents are being dropped, the left is out there saying, well, what's really the crime here? What actually happened? Well, let's walk through it a little bit here, okay? There were 15 intelligence reports that covered this topic of Russian collusion in the 2016 election. Most of the 15 were unremarkable, but 3 contained flawed information, and these 3 became foundational sources the intelligence community cited to claim Putin aspired to help Trump's win. Senior CIA officers said some of the information in these reports had been judged to have not met various long-standing intelligence community standards for publication, and that is why they had not been published when first acquired. 2 sensitive reports were not published on the director of the CIA's orders, that would be Brennan at the time. The 3 reports were published after the election on the director of CIA's orders, despite veteran CIA officers' judgment that they contained substandard information that was unclear, of uncertain origin, potentially biased, implausible, or in the words of senior operations officers, odd. Okay, so all of this stuff was basically not up to the standards of intelligence gathering. So they were not going to release them. And the other reports were all unremarkable. But up here we can say that acting on President Obama's orders, the director of the CIA, Brennan, directed a full review and publication of raw human information that had been collected before the election. CIA officers said that some of this information had been held on the orders of the director of the CIA, while other reported having been judged by experienced CIA officers to have not met long-standing publication standards. So basically, Barack Obama didn't like the information that was coming out, allegedly, and then said, hey, go ahead and do another full review, Brennan, and then get that information out there. So Brennan took all of this stuff that other CIA officers had flagged as being just plain weird and released it. And now all of a sudden you have the Russian narrative being born, and you have 2 years worth of investigations into Donald Trump's presidency that basically just hindered him, and of course called into question his very election, as was repeated by Hillary Clinton in as recently as 2019.
I believe he knows he's an illegitimate president. He knows that there were a bunch of different reasons why the election turned out the way it did. And I take responsibility for those parts of it that I should. But Jane, it was like applying for a job and getting 66 million letters of recommendation and losing to a corrupt human tornado. And so I know that he knows that this wasn't on the level. I don't know that we'll ever know everything that happened, but clearly we know a lot and are learning more every day, and history will probably sort it all out.
So yes, history is sorting all of this out, and it's looking pretty shady. Now, just to be clear about all of this, do I think that anyone is going to actually be prosecuted and convicted for any of this? No, I don't. I think they should, but it's simply not going to happen. If anything goes on in Washington, it's basically just cover-ups and slaps on the wrist, all right? Now, I'd love to see some actual results from all of this, but the swamp is strong in Washington, D.C., so the most we can hope for, of course, is at least getting this information out there, because transparency, of course, is always the best option. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and say hi to your mom for me. Do you like t-shirts? Of course you do. And now you can support the channel by buying an Angry Teacher t-shirt designed by me, Angry Teacher. So if you like America, if you like freedom, if you like liberty, then go ahead and click the link in the description, where all designs, of course, are 100% mother approved. So enjoy yourself and find something you like today.